Look at all of this unusual VIX call flow from last week, millions upon millions worth of premium. And even crazier, if you go over here to the date that these came in, look at this, 214, 218, 218, 219, etc. And look what happened over here on February 21st, a couple days after. We had a major explosion to the upside, 16.42% on the day. And not only that, look at where it closed. If you don't believe in technical analysis on the VIX, I'm going to make you a believer with this line right here. Obviously, this is only one data point, but very interesting that we closed exactly on this downtrend, leaving the following week's price action up for grabs. This is indecision just because it closed on this trend line. It wasn't above it meaningfully. It wasn't below it. It is right on. So that leaves a lot of unknown going into the week ahead just based on a technical basis. Now, I do want to go back over to these prints over here. Obviously, this is super unusual. If you watch this channel and have been for a while, it is very rare we see these types of prints. It's like not even once a month, maybe like once every 2 or 3 months we see something like this. And typically, like you can see, they posted on the Twitter account, it is a precursor to some type of a pullback. Now, the extent or duration of the pullback is unknown, but whenever you see prints like this continuous with millions upon millions of premium, especially as far out the money as these were coming in, like 23, 24, etc., that's something you definitely want to be careful with. Either hedge if you have existing long positions, or just be super careful going into that week for trading. Expect the potential for some downside, kind of like what we saw on the S&P 500 this week. And I do want to go over to SPX predominantly because we did have a couple things happen. First of all, we broke out of a key downtrend over here. As you can see with this orange trend, then we retested it twice actually, and we're able to go up a lot higher. And then we had a breakout of a mini downtrend up here, pretty much the same thing we saw from here, just a miniature version of it. And then this became a failed breakout because we broke out above it over here. We had some consolidation, and this turned out to be distribution because we had a major downside move after. So going forward, the most important level going into this week would be based on Fibonacci. We can drop from the top to bottom in this case here, and you can see we're coming up on the 0.618 retracement, just about 6,000, very close to where it closed on Friday. Would not be surprised to see this, and then potentially even 5,960 retested. Bulls need this to hold if they want this to just be some type of a pullback before continuation higher back to all-time high. Otherwise, this is a failed breakout. Not only is it a failed breakout to all-time highs as well. So we had a nice liquidity grab up here at all-time highs, and then it immediately fell off afterwards. So the ball is in the bears' court in this case here. They have a lot more potential to push this lower just because of this structure. Failed breakouts tend to be even more bearish than if you were to just have a bearish breakdown, for example, just because this shows there's not enough demand to support this to continue higher based on the breakout that we saw. So then that resulted in a flush on Friday, which happened to be OPEX day. So this is some of the stuff that I'm looking at. This range over here, about 40 points, is going to be super critical. If it does fall below this, we're going to see a lot lower price discovery, with a minor support being this previous downtrend over here, which would be somewhere around 5,880 or so. And then below that, we're going to see a new local low below this 5,770. So my case is still a bull case at the moment. I was looking for this breakout over here. We did have that breakout. I was looking for continuation. In this case, we did have a lot larger of a pullback than I expected. So over here, we do need to see this hold. Otherwise, my stance will be changed if we do close under this 5,960 during this week. So to keep it simple, bullish as long as it can hold the golden pocket over here. And if we were to break below that, then watch out below because this can start to fall a little bit faster. I also want to bring up NVIDIA's flow from last week because there was a couple super unusual prints, even for NVIDIA, which I know typically we do see unusual orders on there. But the first one being this one that came in pretty close to the close. You can see here 3:59:35 Eastern. So just a couple seconds before the market closed on Friday. This was an $11.7 million put sell order. And they were selling this to open because you can see the size of the order, the volume over here is over the existing open interest. So they sold this to open. This whale wants to collect the premium on these contracts. They have about 3 or 4 weeks until expiration over here. It looks like 4. And the part about this that's super unusual is that they sold these in the money puts, which means that the price of these contracts is going to be a little bit higher than you normally would see, obviously because it is in the money. And then also the premium is super unusual here as well. You don't normally see this amount of premium on a singular order for NVIDIA, and especially so for a put sell order coming in below the ask, sold to open, that is. So this one definitely on my watch list going into this week. It doesn't mean that this has to rip in the opposite direction, but generally speaking, we do see these large premium orders, singular print that is, tends to go in the direction of whatever strike they chose, in this case 139. So going over to NVIDIA here just to do some technical analysis for potential setup in this case, you can see we had a beautiful bounce from this trend line over here that I referenced in a video, I believe 2 or so weeks ago. You can see where it started all the way down here on this April 18th pivot along the line to here, August 5th, this low. And then we had a nice low print over here before a nice rally following that. And then we went all the way up to this previous range supply zone, never had a daily close above. You could see all the wicks here, and then it rejected. So personally, if I wanted to trade it this week based on this flow that I saw here, I'd be super careful seeing it below this supply zone over here. I'd like to see it get back above. I'd consider that to be a lot safer if it was able to close a daily above 141, 142-ish, because then we're back in this previous range where you can see where we were before, supply zone up here, and then demand zone in the range. This is acting as a supply zone now. Until it gets back above, it seems a bit risky. You could see some wide chop in between this range over here. Realistically, something like this all the way back down. I'm not interested in trading anything in this range. Rather trade it relatively safe if it's able to get back in. So that's my personal preference on it. I'm sure there's other tradable opportunities on it for people that have other setups, but personally, I don't see any ideal setup on it for this week. And also you can see there's other put orders that hit the tape. So yeah, we did have a large put sell order over here, but you can see these put buy orders for an even shorter dated expiration, 2.3 million, 2.5 million. They're looking for a quick move to the downside, another 2.8 million, 3 million. That's a lot of premium going into NVIDIA for mostly out the money put orders. So definitely want to be careful in the short term, especially because of this expiration here and because of the extent of the rejection we saw on Friday. I personally don't say anything on this. I know that's not flashy. I'm supposed to give you guys some type of setup that I see, but I'm being honest in this case, don't see a specific setup on NVIDIA here. I'd rather trade the SPX setup in this case and wait, because trading at the end of the day is mainly waiting. Even though people don't like to think of it that way, it's mainly waiting for those optimal setups. Optimal setup, in my opinion, is above 141, back in the range. And until then, I'm going to go over here and trade something like SPX around 5,960 or so, looking for a low there for this golden pocket bounce with targets all the way up to 6,000 and then beyond to 6,050, 6,060. So that's my plan for this week. As I always like to say, volatility brings opportunity. We certainly got some excess volatility last week, so now it's time to capitalize on that.